But hopefully you will find your answers with this test review to help you do well on the test. See where I went there? Okay, so here are some answers for the review. Like I said, I usually like to give you the answers first, so that way you can get your answers, and then you can decide to listen to me, whether you want to listen to me or not, to see how you might get those answers. Anyways, here's part of them. Here's the next part. Okay, so now you've got the next part. So now let's start looking at the questions, and then we can kind of go from there. So let's look at, say, well, the first set of questions, right? Okay, so questions 1 and number 2 refer to this figure, and they want the intersection of the plane ABC and EFB. Now remember, from chapter 2, intersections of planes are at lines, so we should be able to say, okay, if I got ABC is this plane right here, EFB is this plane right here, so you should be able to tell that BC, line BC, is going to be the intersection. What plane is parallel to EGH? So EGH, that means this plane, that's horrible. That plane, so basically the top, so you need one that tells you about the plane for the bottom. So you're looking at plane, and you got to be careful here because, especially with the test, they may give you only 3 points, non-collinear. So you could say like FBA, you could tell me BAK, you could even go into the back, but basically you're looking for FBAKML. Any of these points, because if you see here, those points make up that plane. Any of those, say 6 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, in any combination would be considered the answer. Okay, so for the next part, we want to identify the intersection of planes SVX, so SVX, and STU, so that's basically up there at the top. And you can see here they're crossing right there at SV, line SV. Now, name a segment that is skew. What does it mean to be skew? Okay, if you look at your note sheet, skew would be a line that is not parallel but doesn't intersect. Okay, so if WY is here, I'm looking for lines that aren't parallel and also do not intersect. So like here you've got SX, they do not intersect, so that one would work. Are there any others? Let's see here. I've got VZ, that also doesn't intersect and doesn't, like, say, cross, or is not parallel. I could go with VU, and you could go with ST. I think that pretty much covers them. Any of those would work because, again, they're not parallel to YW, and they're not going to, say, intersect with YW. Right? It was YW, right? Yes. Okay, so moving on. Next ones, and this is where that formula sheet could be very helpful. Like, you got to identify what the two angles are. Like, if you look at this, angle 2 and angle 12, that's like kind of looking at only this section of the graph, or of the lines, which means I'm literally focusing on the M and N and this transversal. I'm ignoring the rest of this right here. Okay, and then you can tell that 2 and 12 are alternate exterior angles. Okay, so that one, they're alternate exterior angles. If you look at the next one, it talks about, let's say, 2, 3, and 5. 3 and 5, now those two are here, and so that means you're looking at these two angles with this transversal, and those are alternate interior. Notice we're not focused here on whether they're parallel or not. We're just worrying about what kind of angle pairs they would be. Alternate interior angles. And then finally 7 and 15. Notice that one's interior, one's exterior on the same side of a transversal. So this one is corresponding. And those definitions are on there on that note sheet that you need to make sure you bring to the class. Okie dokie. Alright, so we're going to go with the idea that M and N are parallel. And measurement of angle 8 is 86. Find the measurement of angle 13. Okay, so 8 and 13, notice here, are consecutive interior. So that means they add up to 180. So I'm saying here 180 plus 80, or I'm sorry, 180 is equal to the 86 plus the measurement of angle 13. So if I subtract out the 86, I should get 94. So here the measurement of angle 13 is 94 degrees. Find the values of x and y given that m and n is congruent to or parallel, and then measurement of angle 4 is 6x minus 5, 10 is 5x plus 8, and 9 is 3y plus 10. Okay, so let's look at this. So we now know, according to this, angle 4 and angle 10 are alternate interior angles, which means they are congruent. So this one I would go 6x minus 5 equals 5x plus 8. Move, move. So this would be minus 5x plus 5. So x equals 13. So now, I now know x is equal to 13. So if I put that in there and say 13 times 6, or I could do that with, actually I'll do that with the angle 10 since I'm going to need that one first. So if I put that here and say 13 here, I'm going to say 5 times 13 plus 8. That's 65 plus 8, which is 73. So I now know that angle 9 and 10 add up to 180 because this is a linear pair. Okay, so now I'm saying 73 from angle 10 plus a 3y minus 10 is equal to 180. That's in 180. So this, combine your like terms, I've got 63 plus 3y equals 180. So then I can subtract and then divide. So here I've got 7, that would be 17, 117 divided by 3, and so thus y is equal to, let's see here, 339. Okay, so y is 39 and x is 13, and that's basically how you would figure that out. Alrighty? Okay, I did not put this formula onto the note sheet. You might want to make sure you have it on there in case you forget. But I want to find the slope of a line that passes through two given points. So on like number 10, I would put in there, and I told you how to do this on the calculator. Remember, control divide. Control divide allows you to make the fraction symbol. So you could put in there minus minus negative 4 minus 5. And then negative 10 minus 5, and that would get you, say, negative 9 over negative 15, which would be 3/5. So you should have 3/5 as an answer, and then you could go from there. Now keep in mind, again, the calculator would take you straight from that step to that step. Number 11, same thing. You're going to put in there the slope. And you're going to say 9 minus a negative 15 and negative 2 minus 2, which would give you, say, according to this, that would be 21, 23, 24. I have no idea where I'm coming up with some of this. 24 over negative 4, which is negative 6. And then finally, number 12, you've got, say, the slope is equal to, subtract 14 minus 9 and negative 6 minus a negative 3, and that would be 5 over negative 3, so that would be negative 5/3, and I can leave it like that. Okay, so the next ones, make sure you understand what is parallel and what is perpendicular. You want to make sure that you understand that the parallel is same slope, perpendicular is the opposite reciprocal. If it's not either one of those two, then it's neither. Okay, so like here on the on number 13, you can see I took the 2 points and found the slope and got a slope of 4. And for the other one, I got a slope of negative 3. Since they're not the same slope and they're not opposite reciprocals, they are neither. So for the next one, I'm going to go ahead and say here that I have 6 minus 2 and negative 5 minus a negative 3. So I'm just getting the points that are there and coming up with the slope. So this is 4 over negative 2, which is negative 2. And then for the KP, the next slope here, I've got, hopefully I'm not looking at these right. I mean, I would hate if I did it wrong. But 10 minus 4, and then I've got negative 2 minus 1. That gives me 6 over negative 3, which is also negative 2. So now you can see here, these two are the same. So since they are the same, they are parallel. And then finally on number 15, let me go ahead and write that one out. So here, keep in mind that like on this one, you see that I got 2/3 for both. So these also are parallel. So again, what's an example of perpendicular? Keep in mind that if you had a slope of like 2/3, perpendicular would be negative 3/2. Remember, it's opposite and then the reciprocal. Like if you looked at this one, negative 2, then the opposite reciprocal of that would be change the sign to become positive. If you think of that as 2 over 1, then it would become 1 over 2. That would be perpendicular. Okie dokie. So let's move on. Okay, so you can see here on number 16, they want you to write something in slope-intercept form. They give you the slope. They give you the y-intercept. That's the b. So then that one's easy. You just got to say 9x plus 3, and you're done. Number 17, though, you got to go through a little bit more because that one, they give it to you a slope and a point. So you would have to go, okay, I've got to do the slope-intercept form or point-slope form, and I would convert that to slope-intercept form. So y with y, x with x, slope in the middle. Okay, so I have y minus 5 is equal to 3x plus 3, and then move the 5 over to the other side, and so y is equal to 3x plus 8. And there is that one. On number 18, you have to find the slope. They give you an x-intercept of 3 and a y-intercept of negative 1. Keep in mind that that right there is your b, but you got to find the slope. So the nice part is this. This is 3 comma 0. This is 0 comma negative 1. You might want to make sure you know that for the test. And so if you find the slope and say, like here, 0 minus a negative 1, and then 3 minus a 0, you end up with 1/3. So then that's your slope, and you've already got your b, so the answer here is 1/3 x minus 1. So keep in mind, like when you have something like this, you could use the points that the intercepts are, and then help you find the slope. These next ones, given the following information, determine which lines, if any, are parallel. State the postulate or theorem that justifies your answer. Now, keep in mind this. These ones start with, if you're looking at the formula sheet, you know, is it the corresponding angles, alternate interior angles theorem? Is it the like which one is it? I would be careful on this when you're choosing, and make sure you're kind of careful like which one you're choosing. But because like the converse basically says that you have to have them be this to make them parallel, versus as if they're parallel, then those things are congruent. I know that sounds confusing, but you just kind of look for the names, okay? Don't worry so much on the numbers. So angles 1 and angle 2, you see here, would be considered like, say, alternate interior angles. So I would use the alternate interior angles theorem. Interior angles theorem. And again, the multiple choice, that would be pretty obvious right there. DAB, this angle right here, EBC, oops, let's try that again. EBC, that's this angle right here. Okay, those two are corresponding angles, so then I would use corresponding angles. And that's technically a postulate. And then the only one that has about being 180, supplementary, is the one about consecutive interior angles. So even just by seeing that, you should be able to get that one. So consecutive interior angles. And that is a theorem also. So you can kind of see how that works, and that should hopefully make that a little bit easier. Okay, on number 22, you should be able to tell from that picture that those two are alternate exterior angles, which means they're, of course, to make them parallel, the two lines parallel, you would have to set these two equal to each other, because by definition, congruent, they're equal. So again, variables to the left, numbers to the right, minus 6x, which would give me 3x, plus 44, which would give me 54, and then you can divide by 3. And thus x equals 18. So when x is equal to 18, you will get the same angle measure for both, and thus you would have that. Okay, number 23 just wants you to write them in point slope form. So y minus equals, it's so nice when they give you something like that, x minus, so y with y, x with x, slope in the middle, and you're done. That's all you got to do. Number 24, write an equation in slope-intercept form, and they're giving you the slope and the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is your b, so this one is just 5/3 x minus 2. Yes, I might give you a question that easy, because why not? Alright, so the next one does take a little bit extra work. On number 25, you've got to give me the idea that you've got to find the slope. They're giving you 2 points, -1, 7, and then 3, -9. You've got to find the 2 points, or you got to find the slope first. So you're saying here, subtract 7 minus a -9, and -1 minus 3. And that would be 16 over 4, -4, which would be -4. There's your slope. Pick a point, and then do point slope form. X minus. So here I'm saying y with y, x with x, slope in the middle. This becomes a +1, y minus 7, I got to distribute. It's equal to -4x minus 4. Move the 7 to the other side, plus 7. And I get y is equal to -4x plus 3. And there you go. So now we're ready to finish up the last ones, and hopefully they won't take too long, but let's look. Okay, so again, they want you to tell me which 2 lines are going to be parallel based on the angles and everything. State the postulate theorem that justifies your answer. Okay, so angle 1 and angle 6, you can see here, these 2 are right here. They're with this line and these 2 lines, so that means G and H are going to be parallel. And the reason why is because of the corresponding angles postulate. I'll just put here corresponding angles postulate. Okay? Angles 2 and 3, you can see here are, say, right here, like 2 and 3, you can see them, but they're like this line, and this line. So you can see G ends up being the transversal. They're alternate interior angles to each other. Oh, alternate interior would be nice to say. And that's a theorem. And that would mean that it's P and Q that are parallel. So you better be careful and know which ones are parallel. Notice how I'm using these lines to help me figure out, and that way I kind of ignore the excess information. I would do that. Alright, 4 and 9. If you look here, 4 and 9 are, like, you can see the lines that they're touching. Just go with the lines that they're touching. That kind of helps you see it. And then you can tell that that's alternate. Hopefully you can tell that. I'm saying that. Alternate exterior angles theorem, which allows them, which that means, and then that would be G and H that are parallel. Okay? You can see there because those are the only ones that the 2 lines together. The other one crosses them. Alright, number 7 and 6. Okay, you can see here again, 7 touches this line and this line. 6 touches these 2 lines, and you can see those are consecutive interior angles, and that means P and Q are parallel. Alright, so now let's look at this that we want, say, 2 and 7 to show that G and H are, say, parallel. So I'm looking at here, this one and this one, excuse me, and you can see here that, well, they're cut by 2 different transversals, but you should be able to see that these 2 are like alternate interior, or they're like interior angles, so that's what should make them congruent. So let's look at that. So you can see here they're congruent, so I basically moved the variables to the left, numbers to the right, and then I could divide, and that allowed me to make that like that. Now let's look at the last one here. And then you can see here that if angle 8 is 64, find the measurement of angle 5. These are on the same side interior, or I'm sorry, yes, consecutive interior. That means they add up to 180. So if I subtract the 64 by, or 180 by 64, I get the other measurement. So that should give me 116. And there's my final answer. And that is my video for today to help you get ready for the test. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. I really do hope y'all have listened to this and hope it helps y'all a lot. Y'all take care and do your best. Thank you.